Hi, I'm Armand Diaz here with the March 2012 astrological forecast. In terms of weather, the folk wisdom is that March has a reputation for coming in like a lion and going out like a lamb, meaning it's a transition point between winter and spring. Astrologically, however, March begins with the sun in mutable Pisces and ends with it in cardinal Aries. We don't actually say that March comes in like a fish and goes out like a ram, but that's kind of the way it is. The energy of springtime begins to take hold, and we feel a real uptake in the collective energy during March, especially this March as the Uranus-Pluto square builds towards its first exact hit in June. Passion's going to be running high on the 3rd and 4th as Mars and the Sun oppose each other, followed by Venus and Saturn staring at each other from across the zodiac. Considering the position of these planets in these signs, it seems like at the time we can't quite pull off being just as selfish as we would like. Whether our selfishness is healthy and creative or just egotistical grandstanding, something pulls us back and makes us considerate of others. That's good news if you were going to blurt out something on a momentary whim, but if you're cheating yourself out of doing something you really wanted to do and in the best expression of yourself, it can be a bit of a problem. Venus comes home to Taurus on the 5th. With Saturn making his last stand in Libra, for the next 27 years at any rate, through the fall, the focus on relationship is going to be very strong. In Taurus, Venus asks us to think, what is it that we really value about our relationships, and what is it we value about relationship in general? However, the sort of subtle energy of Venus in Taurus is likely to be lost on us with Uranus and Mercury meeting up on the 6th. Now, this is going to happen in the sign of Aries, so it adds extra energy to what is already going to be a very sparked up type of meeting. When Uranus and Aries get together, ideas are flowing, patience is at an all-time low. We tend to really feel inspired. We tend to really feel that we need to move forward with our projects. We really want to get going. Anything that sort of stands in our way is liable to be pushed away. This is selfishness of one type or another, but it can be a very creative time. The most joyous holiday of the year falls on the 11th as we push the clocks ahead and rejoin daylight savings time. In much of the world, daylight savings time actually takes up more of the year than standard time, which is a little confusing. But the good news is we get to have sunset coming much later, an hour later, and in the New York City region, the Northeast United States, the sun will be out until about 7 o'clock at night, and that's just good news no matter how you look at it. And looking at the sunset might be something that you want to do at that time because Mercury stations to go retrograde on the 12th, and doing anything else can be a little bit of a problem when Mercury stations to retrograde. Sometime around the 12th, I will put out a video astroblog on Mercury Retrograde, unless something goes wrong because Mercury is going to go retrograde. At any rate, this cosmic gremlin does tend to cause problems with communication, sometimes transportation, frequently transportation, and computer things. It's not a great time to sign contracts, so on and so forth. The 13th and 14th feature a real mashup of astrological energy, as Venus and Jupiter and Mars and Pluto all aspect each other. Now, Venus and Jupiter getting together, especially in the sign of Taurus, that sounds wonderful. That's great for socialization. It has a nice sensual energy. It's great for romance. It's great for having a nice meal. Mars and Pluto get along very well with each other too, of course. It's a much more energized type of combination. And all of these planets aspecting each other with nice soft trines really suggest that we can make these very different types of energies work well together. It should be a time when relationship and passion are sort of on the same page. It should be a time when we can socialize and also get things done. On the 18th, Mercury meets up with Uranus. Oh, wait a minute, didn't I say that? Yeah, I did, because on the 6th, Mercury met up with Uranus while he was going forward, but now that he's retrograding, he's going to meet up with him again. Some of those brilliant ideas from the 6th, I wouldn't give up on them, but they might need to be retooled and reworked to make them functional. And you probably won't know until Mercury goes direct and passes over this point again in April what's really going to take and what really was the kernel of the idea that you can use and continue to go forward with. Nonetheless, if you need to rework something, it may have seemed like a great idea and you may be feeling, gee, it didn't really catch on. Keep working at it because the story isn't over yet. The sun enters Aries on March 20th at 1:14 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and that's the beginning of springtime, the vernal equinox, the start of the astrological new year. It's the midway point between the dark of the winter solstice and the light of the summer solstice, and it's a real time when the energy begins to visibly and perceptibly rise. We really do get away from the darkness, the sort of inward movement of the winter time, particularly in Pisces, and start to go forward again, but not quite yet, because on the 22nd we have the new moon in Aries. Now, the new moon in Aries is really the beginning, because it is the beginning of the lunar cycle of the month as well as the beginning of the astrological year. And the two are very, very close together, but it does imply a little bit of lag time between the 20th and the 22nd, when the moon will be in Pisces, and it will have a little bit more of that mellow type of energy. So, the astrological new year is still on March 20th, but we're really going to feel it more on the 22nd. Or maybe we're going to feel it more on the 24th, when the sun meets up with Uranus. Now, this is a really important astrological aspect, and it's a significant trigger for the Uranus-Pluto square that's building. In fact, the entire time between the 24th and the 29th, when the sun squares Pluto, should give us a little mini picture of this spring and summer's Uranus-Pluto square. We'll begin to see what issues are going to be prominent collectively, and we're going to begin to see how different groups are positioning themselves with respect to those issues. Individually, it's a time when we really will be pushing forward with our own plans and ideas, even though Mercury is retrograde, and even though Mars, the planet which rules Aries, is retrograde, we're still going to be pushing forward. Yeah, the brakes are on a little bit. There's no two ways about it. And that is not something that is really going to stop us, however. It's more a build-up of pressure before release, that the planets are retrograde and that we're so pushed to move forward and can't quite get the speed that we want. We can't quite get the traction that we need. That doesn't mean that this energy is wasted in any way. It's rather building up so that when the planets go direct, we can really shoot forward. March is an extraordinarily powerful, charged month. It's an extraordinarily powerful and charged month every year, but this year it's exceptionally so. Look collectively to see what's happening, because that, first of all, is important in itself, and it also affects us individually. Look into your own life and see what does not seem to be working and what seems to really be putting a stress on you. You may not be able to make changes yet, but if you know where you want to go, this is the time to start pushing in that direction. There may be a little bit of resistance. There may not be quite that feeling of letting go and getting what you want, but put your efforts in that direction. You'll see the payoffs in time, and not a lot of time, because things are moving very fast right now.